Now, can I please ask for our digital policy panel for our other panelists to join us on stage? And they are Miss Laurence Boetti-Forestier. Please come and join me on stage. And as you come on the stage, I will introduce you. She is Executive Councillor, a warm welcome, for cross-border relations of the Provence-Alpes-Côte d'Azur region. The councillor will have an interpreter to support her intervention. We have Mr. Thomas Neuhäusler from the Bavarian Representation in Brussels. Thank you very much for joining us. And last but not least, we have Miss Livia Behnisch, who is Youth Councillor with the EU Strategy for the Alpine area. Please, panelists, join me on the stage. A very warm welcome to you all as you take your seats. And as they do so, let me explain a little bit about this session. A warm welcome to all of you. The session will involve some questions from me to our panelists covering a range of digital themes that are, of course, relevant to the Alpine context. We will then have a more interactive exchange across the group before we reveal that famous Slido response to the first question, and we'll ask our panelists to give us a reaction to what they see in the word cloud. So before we start, a reminder to our audience to respond to that Slido question, please. If you haven't already done so, start thinking about going in and populating your answers now so that we have a nice word cloud for our roundup of this session today. Hamas, a very, very warm welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I want to start by coming to you again, Minister Lotto, if I can. And I have a question for you. What is your region doing concretely on digitalisation, and how does this connect to the leadership role of Action Group 5 within the EU strategy in the Alpine area? Please.
Yeah, thank you again, and I hope I won't be boring to say too much today, but I'm really happy to be part of this either. So I wanted to think about what we are doing, divided into three pillars that we are already talking, so that we can already link what we are doing and how it is important to Action Group 5. And so I will start with the digital transformation part. That I think it's very important. And as someone said before, something that we're doing a lot is education on digitalization. And that's because, first of all, we want to leave nobody alone, and so that we can keep all together. And also, I was reading the newspaper this morning, and I was reading something about the fact that technology in this moment can be either something that pushes you very hard into the future, or that can be something that will exclude you completely from everything that has been doing in our society. So education for us is extremely important, and we are investing almost $500,000 in education, especially on AI, but not only. And then also, after the big investment that we had in the past years from the state part and from the regional part, we had invested a lot in e-governance and on made more efficient our system as a region. We invested in digital twin for our region so that we can have more data to manage and to take decision. We invested in AI for managers, for project managers that work in the public administration. We invested in AI for tourism. We invested in medicine. So all this together just for the digital transformation. And then we have infrastructures. And infrastructure, we said it before with Angelo, we had huge investment, but still we need more. We have almost 1,000 kilometers of fiber backbone, and you have to count the Delta Valley. It's an extremely small region. It's like a small rectangle that is 125 kilometers per 30 kilometers. So 1,000 kilometers of fiber is quite a lot. But still, we can't reach all the population, and this is our most important thing, the most important thing for us. We have a school plan, so we connected all the school with a fiber connection so that they can have unlimited connection whenever they want. We had a Wi-Fi plan that we are improving, also with Kabler. We're improving Wi-Fi in all the regional offices, and also we had it on public places, like squares or public places where there is a lot of people coming. I wish we could have more data centers. For the moment, we have few, but I'm sure that in the future, using the Alps, and this is something a hint that I will throw here, but using the Alps, using the mountains, using the cold, I think it's the right place to have data centers. And then we're working also on an extremely powerful and ambitious project on drones. That also, I think it's something very important for the Alps, extremely specific for us, for our territories. And we want to imagine drones not as an object, but as an infrastructure. So a drone that can be used from everyone with specific missions, but the infrastructure of drones here is there. And then AI and data. This is, of course, the most, how can we say, the most interesting and difficult, and still we are kind of understanding what would be the real utilization of AI in the public administration. But we have an idea now, and my dream, my wish, my ambition is to have a real data lake house where we have all the data from our region and we just interrogate our AI and we have an answer. But so the idea is that AI is for people working in the public administration. There is an AI for citizens that need to talk to the public administration, and then an AI for policy advisors and policymakers. And of course, this is all the same, but it's different people that are interrogating them. And so using these three pillars, I think that what we want is to show the others what we're doing, but also that the other shows us what they're doing, so that together and in a network we can do better and we can improve and we can have new ideas, and together we can work better.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Minister Lotto. That was a very rich summary. And you got a lot of information, which I think we could probably pick apart with quite some detail, and extremely impressive. And I'm sure that for those of you in the audience who were not completely familiar with those three objectives of Action Group 5 and the work that they're doing, that is an excellent insight into what is happening in that space. I'd like to turn now, please, to Miss Laurence Boetti-Forestier, who is, of course, supported today by an interpreter. I've got two parts of a question, if I may, for you. So I want to start with the first one and then allow a response and then go to the second one. So the first question is about what should be the main priority for Alpine regions to ensure that digitalisation becomes a real driver of resilience, cohesion and sustainable development in mountain communities. And with this, can you tell us about the conditions that will promote this? Over to you.
Bonjour, je vais parler dans ma langue, en français. Je suis vraiment très honorée, très heureuse de vous présenter la région Sud Provence-Alpes-Côte d'Azur. Et je vais pouvoir vous parler aussi du bassin de vie où je vis, où j'habite, qui est énormément impacté par l'ensemble de ces questions. Alors, ce que vous m'avez demandé, donc en premier, la région Sud a participé très largement au déploiement et à la mise en place de la fibre pour avoir du haut débit. Donc, aujourd'hui, la question qui se pose pour pouvoir habiter et rester dans nos zones rurales il y a deux questions qui se posent, qui sont des enjeux majeurs pour pouvoir y vivre, y travailler, y étudier. C'est l'accessibilité, c'est le transport. Avoir des transports, avoir de la mobilité dans nos Alpes pour pouvoir rejoindre les centres-villes. Ça, c'est la première, vraiment la grande préoccupation qui est vraiment le départ pour pouvoir vivre et rester dans nos villages. Ensuite vient comment dire, tout le réseau, excusez-moi, je suis un peu de la connectivité et de mettre en place les moyens pour pouvoir travailler, d'avoir comment dire, le déploiement de la fibre et d'avoir le numérique. Donc pour cela, c'est très important. Les jeunes pourront rester, sinon on va être isolés. Léon, vous voulez commencer là, ce qui fait.
Merci.
Very, very good afternoon. And I'm really honored and delighted to find myself here and to be able to represent my region of Provence, Alps and Côte d'Azur, and the area where I live, and that is really hugely impacted by all of the issues that you've mentioned. So what we have done is we have installed fiber, so has to get access to high-speed broadband so that people can actually live and stay in these areas. Now, there are two major issues really where I live. And I would say that if you want to be able to live, study, work in the area where I find myself, the number one issue would be transport and mobility, in the sense that you need to be able to connect to the city centers. That would be the number one issue people have in mind, and that's the starting point for everything else. And the second one would be connectivity, in the sense that you need to be connected to the digital sphere. You need to have means to get access to all things digital, so that you can stay, you can work. People, young people notably, will be able to stay if they are connected.
Thank you very much. These are incredibly important points, and they've very much been mentioned already earlier, so emphasising them, very important. I wondered if we could move to the second part of the question, where I would ask if, can you share some details on projects where you've been involved that demonstrate digital's value across those themes? Thank you.
Alors avant tout, je vais vous décrire une situation qui a été le départ de projets très importants. Dans la Valle où je vis, en 2020, nous avons une catastrophe majeure liée à la tempête Alex. La tempête Alex a détruit à peu près 80% du réseau routier et du réseau ferré. Il y a de plus de connexion ni au niveau de la mobilité des transports, ni au niveau du numérique. Donc là, on s'est vraiment rendu compte que le changement climatique avait un impact majeur sur ces lieux, sur ces aires de vie, sur ces bassins de vie. Un des projets structurants par rapport à la prévention des catastrophes naturelles, c'est le projet Proterina. C'est un projet qui fait partie du programme Maritimo qui a permis la mise en place de capteurs numériques au niveau des cours d'eau afin d'anticiper les crues violentes et d'alerter automatiquement les populations. Et nous avons regretté, c'est pour ça que je vous ai parlé via catastrophe à Alex, nous n'avions pas ces systèmes de prévention. Et aujourd'hui, grâce aux fonds européens, grâce à tous ces efforts et grâce au retour d'expérience d'élus comme moi de terrain, nous avons aujourd'hui mis en place, grâce à ces projets, nous avons ces outils sur le terrain qui permettent d'alerter en temps réel les populations. Dans ces bassins de vie, donc je vous ai présenté tout à l'heure cette situation géographique. Donc la vallée d'Arroya qui a été fortement impactée par la tempête Alex, elle géographiquement, c'est une zone qui relie la Ligurie par Ventigny et le Piémont au niveau de Cuneo. Et le bassin d'emploi, c'est le bassin de Monaco. Donc ce sont des zones où il y a énormément de population, énormément d'impact, à la fois au niveau économique, au niveau du travail et au niveau du tourisme. Donc, nous avons un partenariat. Vous voulez peut-être que traduira ou... je peux tout observer.
Yes, I'd first like to explain to you the situation actually that led to the setting up of a number of these projects. So in 2020, we unfortunately lived through a major disaster because of Storm Alex. 80% of all the road and rail network was destroyed, which meant that all of a sudden we were no longer connected, either physically through transport or digitally through any other means. And that's when we realized that climate change has a huge impact on these regions specifically. And therefore, one of the major projects that was set up was Proterina. It's part of the Maritibo program. And that enabled us to put in place prevention measures in the sense that digital sensors have now been installed in rivers so as to give early warning in case of a risk of sudden flood, of a water surge. And the reason why I mentioned this project in particular is because we dearly regretted not to have had such sensors at the time of Storm Alex, considering all the damage it did. But now, thanks to European funding, thanks to all of the efforts that were made, thanks to all the feedback from elected representatives such as myself, we now have new tools, such as these digital tools, that give real-time warning to the population. So the Hoya Valley, where I live, that's actually, you're finding yourself right in the middle of Liguria, through Ventimiglia, Piemonte, through Cuneo, and actually most of the work will be Monaco. So you really find yourself in an area where there are a lot of people, a lot of commuting. So you really are at the crossroads of the economy, work, and tourism at the same time.
Donc, comme je vous le disais, dans ce bassin de vie franco-italo-monégasque, il y a beaucoup de déplacements, à la fois pendulaires, mais aussi de nombreux événements mondiaux que vous connaissez, notamment le Festival de Cannes et le Grand Prix de Formule 1 de Monaco. L'ensemble de ces événements va générer énormément de déplacements, énormément de personnel, de personnes. Il est soumis à de nombreux risques aussi naturels, puisqu'on est très près des montagnes et très près de la mer. Donc, il est soumis à des risques tels que des tremblements de terre, des inondations, des tsunamis et aussi, malheureusement, on le voit en ce moment, des incendies. Tout cela nécessite une coopération accrue entre les États et les 3 régions frontalières pour le partage des données afin de prévenir la saturation des axes routiers, des axes ferroviaires, mais aussi de permettre aux populations qui y habitent de pouvoir travailler, aux jeunes de pouvoir aller aussi par rapport à leurs études. Donc, en fait, il y a plusieurs usages avec du multiniveau de déplacement, avec des saisons qui changent dans les usages. Donc, c'est une très grosse imbrication. Et pour cela, nous avons un projet, c'est le projet ObservAlpes, qui fait partie du programme Alpes-Côte. Il y a un partage de données entre la France, l'Italie et Monaco, afin de mieux comprendre les déplacements à la fois ferroviaires, à la fois des routes, et de prévenir aussi le jour où il y a une catastrophe, parce qu'aujourd'hui, on n'a pas de système d'alerte des populations, donc de pouvoir se prévenir en temps réel et se réfugier et avoir les bons gestes et de pouvoir secourir les populations franco-italo-monégasques.
Yeah, can I just take the interpretation of this one quickly, and then I'll have to move on because we need to.
So we do find ourselves on the crossroad of France, Italy, and Monaco, and there are quite a lot of people who commute, obviously. But you also find yourself in an area where you have world events you've heard of, because you've heard of the Cannes Film Festival, you've heard of the Monaco Formula 1 Grand Prix, meaning that you have quite a lot of people moving around. And it's also an area that faces risks because we find ourselves in the middle in between mountains and the sea, meaning that we are at risk of earthquakes and floods, tsunamis, and unfortunately, as we can see these days, fires as well. Meaning that cooperation is essential, cooperation between all 3 states and 3 regions, so as to share data, so as to make sure that roads and rails are not congested. And so that people can actually work, that young people can study, meaning that you have quite a number of people traveling and moving around, commuting, and that of course depends on which season of the year you're in as well. meaning that we set up EUSALP as part of the Output program. And the idea is to have data sharing. So the idea is to look into how people move around, share these data to make sure that we avoid congestion. And ideally also because at the moment we don't have any, we would like to set up a warning system in case of disaster so that people can take shelter, so that if anything happens, we can also rescue the people who need that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very, very rich detail, especially talking about the project. Thank you very much. It actually feeds in then nicely to what we're going to come to next, Thomas Neuhäusler, because we're talking a lot here about geography and the role of digital in overcoming some of the challenges that geography presents. And with this, I'd like to ask you a little bit about Munich. Munich is one of Europe's strongest technology hubs. From the various perspective, how can this strength be connected with rural and mountain regions so that digital transformation creates value across the whole state? Over to you, please. 5 minutes, if you would. Thank you.
I'll do my very best.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me. And thank you for a question because it's close to my heart. I lived in a small village, like 350 people there. And if you'd heard of it, we'd probably be related. So it's really small. And I experienced how it is to have no public transport, but to have waste, forests, space, and very happy childhood. And then I moved to Munich, and you probably or hopefully all know Munich, like Oktoberfest, the Etsy Bayern München, and for the more intellectual ones, the Munich Security Conference. So how to answer the question? I think it's important to talk about the why is it important to link rural and urban areas. And we heard a lot in the discussion early on, but I want to add two other aspects. And I bet the big guns, democracy and competitiveness. And let's start with democracy. Munich, we're very proud of it. It's our central hub for everything. But Munich is only one of 2,056 municipalities in Bavaria. So the other 2,055, they matter. And why do they matter? Because it's very important what we're doing here in Brussels, in Berlin, and in Munich. But at the end of the day, if our democracy works, if people have trust in the government, that's decided in those 256 municipalities. And the question is answered with, do we have jobs everywhere? Do we have healthcare? Do we have infrastructure? And do we have working public services? And the second one, competitiveness. We already spoke about it. We have problems in urban areas too. We have high living prices. We have no or less affordable housing and stress and heat and environmental problems. And we also have the problems we discussed in rural areas. But the advantages of both, they complement each other. So bringing them both together can be a huge strength. So after talking about the why, I want to talk about the how. And the key, it's on the table, is digitalization. We get there by doing things digitally. And it's bringing together healthcare, jobs, participation, and work in public services. And I brought with me two projects. There are two projects in a lot of different measures we do at home in Bavaria. And I want to highlight one in the more competitiveness direction, one the democracy direction. So let's start with competitiveness. We have centers for technology transfer. There are at the moment 52 centers all over Bavaria, and they're bringing together the SMEs and the businesses in the rural areas and our universities for applied sciences. And I think you know where I'm going here, because if you bring those together, the universities know what are the problems of the businesses in the rural area and how can we support them? Where do we have to do research? And the businesses, they can get first-hand knowledge, they can get the newest innovations, and they profit from the research. And at the end of the day, they have contact to possible employees. And the second project links more with the democracy aspect. It's a very simple project in thought, but a big project in mind. It's the so-called bio packages. It helps municipalities to digitalize their public services. And how do we do that? The state co-funds public services so that not every municipality has to invent their own public service. They can use one for all. And this sounds very simple, but keep in mind we're talking about federalism in Germany here. So it's quite hard to get done, and it's working. Just one number, and then I close. It's effective and it's successful. Out of the 100 best digitalized municipalities, we have 90. There are 90 out of Bavaria. So it really works. Thank you.
Thank you, Zaki, very much indeed. Some very important messages there about the use of digital for competitiveness. But as you said, this constant need to address democracy, which comes back to some extent to geography. As we mentioned earlier, given your number of municipalities, in particular that you mentioned. Emilija, I'd like to come to you now. And this all links together. This is a question, I suppose, that builds on what we've just been talking about. And I wanted to ask you about, based on your experience in government, what are the most effective policy levers that ensure that digital transformation genuinely reduces territorial inequalities, particularly in mountain and rural regions? So that inequality agenda, back to that one. Please, over to you.
Thank you so much. So I will repeat myself once more, but really fund the last mile. Because we can invest millions, but if we don't fund the last mile, which a lot of times is very challenging, then we have done nothing at all. So this is very important. In Slovenia, I don't know if it's the same case in your countries, but access to connectivity is a universal service. It means that regardless where you live, if you live in the mountains, if you live in the valley, wherever you live, you have access to internet, because we count this as a universal service, just like access to water, access to power, access to roads. So another thing that is really, really important is to build skills of the people. So education was mentioned several times. Education, we can cover the young people, but it's important also to give the skills to the elderly people, to the people of our age as well. When I was a minister, we had a lot of projects. One of them was called Mobile Heroes. So we were using mobile BIMs, and then we brought the trainers to the people instead of asking the people to come and learn the skills in the bigger places. Also, we're speaking about digital public services, but people need to know how to use these public services, because many of them don't know or they don't trust them. So another project what we introduced, it was called DG Info Point. These were physical spaces where people were able to come. Somebody was there helping them, supporting them how to use these digital public services, because they came once, they were introduced, they came second times, they were really trying to see if they know how to use these services, and afterwards they are doing that independently, so on their own. Another thing is to build trust. It was mentioned again also in the opening speeches. How do we build trust? Let's use what is already there. Slovenia is known as one of the countries where we have the largest network of voluntary firefighters. Whenever there is an accident, the firefighters are the first one to come. And so if we want to introduce new digital technologies, let's use that network that is already there, that is existing there, and give them the tools so that they get their own transfer to the people. So how we can really achieve, when we're speaking about cohesion, either regional, national, or European level, let's think about if the people who are getting the plans are only covering the easy bits, like the cities, you were mentioning that also in your valley people are still living in the smaller cities but not in the villages, or if everybody is affected so that really nobody is left behind. Another thing what we can do is how we are measuring success. A lot of times we are measuring success by the numbers. How many megabits are there? How many kiloliters of power is there? But we're not measuring how many people are using the internet, the digital services there. So we need to rethink, reconsider what are the KPIs that are there. And one last thing, a lot of times we're preparing the policies from the capitals, or even worse, from Brussels. So we're preparing the policies for the people, not with the people. We're patronizing the people in the rural areas, in the mountain areas that they don't know, they're not aware of that. They do know what they need. Maybe they are not speaking or not maybe speaking the same language, but they exactly know what they need. So if we want to have a successful transition, then we need to prepare the policies with the people and not for them.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very, very clear messages there. Especially, I liked the way we started with what we really mean by funding the last mile. I think it's often something that becomes overlooked when we see the complexity, the mass of what has to be delivered in the digital agenda. We actually really forget what we mean by funding this last mile. With this, I'd like to come now to Livia Behnisch. Livia, thank you very much for joining us today. We've been talking a lot about things like democracy, engagement, and citizen empowerment, education, skills. We actually really need the youth perspective on this. This is what we need the most. And what I want to ask you is, how does the EU strategy for the Alpine area, how does the Youth Council contribute to promoting digitalisation across the Alpine area? And if you can give us any concrete examples of projects, please feel free to do so. Please, Livia, over to you.
So yes, thank you. As the Youth Council of EUSALP, we are representing the youth of the Alpine region, and we work very closely with almost all organizations within EUSALP. We are represented at the General Assembly. We take part in the Executive Board and the Board of Action Group leader meetings, and most importantly, for here, we also work quite closely together with the Action Group. So thank you to Action Group 5 for inviting us and having us here. This leads me directly to our engagement with digitalization. So this year, the Youth Council has co-organized the EUSALP AI Hackathon. This took part in Bavaria, as Bavaria has the presidency at the moment. And this included, first of all, visits to the castle of Neuschwanstein, where the participants were directly confronted with the challenges of over-tourism. And then the most important part of this event was, of course, the hackathon. Students from Italy and the University of Applied Sciences in Kempten took part in it, as well as some youth councillors. And the aim was to develop solutions with the help of AI to overcome challenges, especially over tourism. So one group developed an application, or more the prototype of an application, on how to steer the crowds away from the overcrowded places to more the hidden gems. Another group tried to build better connection between local farmers and hotels and gastronomy. So the products are not imported from overseas, and really everything stays local. Then another group, for example, also built a prototype of an application to find, so that then people who go for a walk or so, they find an accident or a tree that is on the track. Then they can take a picture, and the application automatically sends this to an AI, which then classifies it as severe or not so severe and what needs to be done. And this then is sent directly to other users of this application, so that they're aware, and also to the local authorities, so they can actually do something and solve the problem. And then there is another event which is still at the planning. It is called Stay Local, Learn Global, and it deals with the population of the Alpine area. As we've already heard, that's quite a problem. And we will hear more about it later from Chiara, my talent leave counselor, and she will give you some more information.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Livia. Thanks for sharing this information. And it's really interesting to hear, as you said, that you take part in all areas of the work, including the senior fora. So you're right there. You're able to make your voices heard. You're able to influence the agenda. That's incredibly important. And you also got to Neuschwanstein and the castle. I've only been once. So it's a fantastic place. Thank you very, very much. I want to now come back and have a more interactive session. We don't have a great deal of time, but there's two key areas that I want to ask you about. One of them goes back to, I suppose, something that was mentioned by Angelo. It's on the radar. It was also mentioned by Julie. And it's really about, how does the digital agenda for the Alpine area, how will it be positioned to navigate the post-27 pathway that promotes place-driven development, citizen engagement, local opportunity, but within this very new governance context that we know is coming in the post-27 period? And let's be honest, many places, many regions, territories and stakeholders are concerned about the EU's future commitment to territorial cohesion. Minister Lotto, I would like to ask you to perhaps lead us in your thoughts in this area. How do we connect this place-based agenda that we have been focusing on with a very new governance model that is coming in the post-27 period?
Yeah, this is the question. First of all, let me just correct myself with Emilija, because she rightly said about education that is not just for the kids, but we need to educate everyone. Our education is focused on 65 plus, and we're investing a lot on that. So, but I totally agree with what she said. So I strongly believe that these are two faces of the same coin. That people-based and place-based policies are the other part of the high-value policies that we're seeing today. So we live in a very complex moment. Europe need to understand what she wants to do when she grew up, and I think that we see the path. We have two different, very big powers that are pushing us from one way or the other, the US and China, and so we need to have a powerful position in that way too. And in the digital, our digital sovereignty is essential, for example. But the digital sovereignty, we can build it on a high level, but also we can build it on a small scale. And for example, what he was saying about the fact that cities and municipalities are not strong enough to build a program, and so the state can give his own. We can see the same, but this is part of being sovereign, and so of building something on a big scale that we can use on a small scale to protect all of us. I think that this is a good example, and I agree with what Emilija was saying, that people know what they need, and I agree that as a politician, one of the more difficult thing is to try to find the way to let people tell what they need, because they know. They probably will complain about it, but they surely not will say to you what they need and what they want. And I think that innovation can help that with the two. Sorry, one last thing. But understanding what people need, understanding what you need as Europe, as European Union, in a much larger scale, in a much more complex situation, putting all these things together, it it's the real challenge. And when I think about the Alps, and when I think about innovation in the Alps, I think about a very famous song that says, "If you can do it there, you can do it anywhere." It was about New York. Now New York is not important anymore. The Alps are. So if you can do it there, you can do it anywhere.
Thank you very much. Laurence, can I turn to you with this question about moving into the future and thinking about the Alpine digital agenda, connecting the bottom-up dimension that you've explained so very clearly from your territory with this top-down orientation which we are seeing in the post-27 period?
Pour ma part et pour la région sud, je dirais que l'importance, comme vous l'avez dit, très bien dit, c'est la souveraineté déjà par rapport à la conservation des data. C'est aussi un double défi, c'est-à-dire que nous devons être souverains dans chaque pays par rapport à ces données numériques, mais aussi de les partager à bon escient. C'est-à-dire que ce que j'ai dit par rapport au projet ProSatipo, comme ça je peux faire le lien. Nous devons partager nos données au niveau de la santé. C'est un enjeu, à la fois, ce sont des enjeux de sécurité nationale, européens, nationaux, mais c'est ce double enjeu, en fait, à la fois de partager, de garder et de se protéger. Voilà, pour moi, ça fait partie de l'agenda et ça fait partie des réflexions qu'on doit avoir et de notre souveraineté et de la démocratie en Europe.
Thanks very much. What I would say is really important to me is that we remain sovereign in the sense that I think we have to keep our data. That's important for each of our country, but that's also important for the rest of the continent. At the same time as we have to share where necessary, in the sense that there's a project, ProSatip Go, that we have set up for e-health. And in this regard, we need to be able to share health data so that this project can go ahead and bring all the benefits from it. But at the same time, we need to make sure that that's safe, that the data is safe, that we keep the data. So we need to be able to share the data, but also keep the data, protect the data. All of this is part of the digital agenda to me. And we need to keep all of this in mind when we work in digital.
Thank you very much. Very, very good point there about data security, which we've already mentioned actually, but we'll come back to that point. I want to move to another question now, and Livia, I want to start with you, and then I want to come to both Thomas and Emilija to get your views on this. Livia, what does success look like when we think of a fully embedded digital agenda for the Alpine area? What would that look like for you if it was successful?
Well, it should be developed in the Alps, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it should really be 100% in the Alps, so no server outsourced or something like this. Also, the energy infrastructure should be mainly in the Alps, so we need to have a stable energy grid, electric grid, to also power all the servers and the other important parts of the infrastructure. And yes, we need to be responsible with how we're dealing with the digitalization. And this is the combination of this is what makes it successful to me.
Thank you very much. Really important points. And thank you for bringing in the energy dimension into the agenda, a hugely important one. Emilija, let me come to you and then I'll come to you, Thomas. Thank you.
Thank you so much. One thing we haven't mentioned at all today is the interoperability. Because if we want to make sure that we use what is already available that we were speaking of, we need to learn how to build interoperable solutions and we need to learn how to store interoperable data.
Yeah.
Because it is the only way how we can use what is already available. What is success for me? So you already saw, I used that in my keynote as well. It means that a child that lives in the mountain region or, very remote rural area can have access to the same education as a child in the city, in Brussels, in Munich, or wherever it's all. It doesn't mean that it has to have access to the same physical education, but through digital technology that it can get the same skills, that experience as other children as well. Then we're speaking about farmers, about, entrepreneurs, that they have same access to the markets, not same markets. Markets can be different, but they need to have the same access to the markets. They need to have the opportunity to succeed where they are from. Or, for example, we were speaking about tools, we were speaking about digital twins, artificial intelligence. So if we're using these tools for predictions, monitoring of transport, mobility, and so on, we need to have these tools that can be used not only access to the tools, but also the skills to learn how to use those tools, those data that is available in these regions. So for me, everything is about equal access, about usage of what is available.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Equality of opportunity, and against back to there. Thomas, please, over to you.
Thank you. I think it will be successful if we work together, the rural areas, the urban areas, and we have a common goal. We want to be sovereign, we want to be competitive, and we want to exist in democracy in 10, 20, 50 years. And I think we'll only get this done if we're working together, all in Europe and all in the Alpine regions. And I think that's it, working together for this common goal. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Now seems like a good time for us actually to go to our Slido results, and then we'll come back to our panel and get a view from you, get a reaction from you on those results. So what do we have here? I'm going to have to stand over here so I can look at it and perhaps convey some of what we have here to the rest of our panel. So how to unlock the digital potential for the entire Alpine region? Well, right in the middle, quelle surprise, we have connectivity, we have EDIH, the European Digital Innovation Hubs, I presume this means, policies, skills and talents, opportunities, involve and attract young people, connect ideas, bring them on paper, then to an innovation infrastructure. And then we have open, diverse, decentralized digital education. So we have lots of conditions and elements around this, real needs, keep it real, and competencies, easy, open, have platforms. So with there are many enablers that have been noted here. Renewable energy has come up, and thank you very much again for bringing that onto our radar. Decision making. But what do we think? I want to come to each of you and ask, are these the things you expected to see? What stands out for you there? Is there anything that's missing? Maybe I could come round to each of you. Just a very brief response to that, if you would, please. Livia, please, let me start with you. Anything that stands out for you there?
Yes, I think we see that youth actually is quite important also to the audience here. And then innovation, which mainly comes from younger people with the fresh ideas as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thomas.
I continue. It's probably what I expected, but it shows, I think, that we know what we have to do, what's out there. We just have to get it done. And that's hard, unfortunately.
It is the hard card. Mr. Lotto said it at the very beginning. Absolutely. Please, Laurence.
Oui. Oui, bien sûr, je m'attends à ce qui est écrit, mais je voudrais rebondir différemment et je m'attendais à ce qu'on pose aussi la question. Maintenant, c'est peut-être l'avenir de vivre, et vous l'avez dit au début, chers collègues, c'est de vivre dans les Alpes. Et je dirais juste une chose, on le voit aujourd'hui avec le changement climatique, il fait plus de 40 degrés dans nos villes, il fait bon vivre dans les Alpes, et les Alpes aujourd'hui, c'est notre avenir.
Yeah, well, what I see on the screen is more or less what I expected, really. But I'll react slightly differently in the sense that there's a question that I might have liked to hear, in the sense that I feel that the Alps are not just our present. They are rather our future, really. And I think that's what was said earlier on, actually, at the very beginning of this session. Because of climate change in our cities nowadays, it's about 40 degrees Celsius. It's a lot nicer in the mountains, actually. And I so that the Alps really are our future. I think we'll be living in the Alps rather in the future more than in the cities.
It's a very positive message. Thank you very much. Emilija, please.
Thank you so much. To see connectivity, I was speaking about connectivity of many central because, and this is my message, my ask for the European Commission, for all the national governments, regional governments, make connectivity as a universal service. Trust me, we cannot speak about digital transformation if we don't have connectivity. So this is up and us. Then the skills and talent, absolutely. And one thing I really like here, technology is mentioned, but things are very small. Connect ideas. When we're speaking about innovation, we're speaking only about technological innovation, the real innovation, the social innovation. Because of social innovation, we are incorporating technology, but technology is only a tool. For social innovation is what it is really matters, and the role of young people here is especially important.
Thank you for really emphasizing this, because we're talking about our digital agenda here today, and there is a knee-jerk reaction often to think of the tech side, not the soft side, because without the soft side, it doesn't work anyway, right? So thank you for bringing that to our radar. Very important. Please, Mr. Lotto.
Yeah, I had to say that I expected these answers. Connectivity, of course, but the connectivity I'm quite confident that we can achieve it. Why skills and talents? That is the one that I'm really interested in. I really hope I'm working all my days to do that. But this is the real challenge. I think is the first time in 2026 that in a Slido there is not the answer artificial intelligence. This is very interesting and quite clear, but I think it's also an answer to unlock the potential of the digital of the Alps, of the Alpine region.
True. Thank you very much. Thanks for giving a response to that, and thank you also to those of you who made a contribution. I think most of you did, at least what 26 people did. Quite a few. Okay, we have a little bit of time just before the coffee break, and I wanted to offer the opportunity now if anyone in the audience would like to ask a question. We have one. Do we have more than one? We can take a couple, but not more than that probably. Maybe by the time we have a question from you, someone else will have thought of this. We will bring a microphone to you. I can do that in just a moment. Just for a little bit of detail, please say who you are, where you come from. Keep your question brief, if you would, please. And if you have a particular person, then you're directing your question to, please state so that they can, please, that's very kind. Thank you very much. So, our first question coming up.
Okay, can you hear me? Hi everybody, my name is Sabek. I work at the Public Holding for Life and Learning, so it's a fraction of the Ministry of National Education. So today, as a person who works for this ministry, I'll of course call it professional information, but I will be talking about education, because many of you have mentioned e-learning, which is wonderful. In my organization, we recently obtained a great project with Interreg, France, Switzerland, for e-learning. It's been going great. But besides Interreg and Interreg Alpine Space, which is highly competitive, as we all know, what is being done in your respective countries to inform about funding opportunities? And because I saw EDIH, European Digital Innovation Hub, I'm one of the people who mentioned it. If anybody else wrote EDIH, please reach out later. It'd be wonderful, whoever did that. But do you inform your respected regions about the funding opportunities? And I'm here thinking about the Digital Euro program, for example, because I think e-learning is the future. And as I said earlier this morning, education is prevention. Education is preparing for the future.
Thank you. Is that a question generally to the panels?
To be honest, I think it's addressed for the EDIH to everybody in the room.
Yeah, okay. And it's a very good question. So how do you direct your various audiences to the funding opportunities that are available with respect to e-learning more generally? Any, please.
So I'm Helga, or European Digital Financial Hub. But of course, you have different opportunities to share. But if you remember, I mentioned use the networks that are already there, that people trust them. It works the best. When we introduced Mobile Heroes, it was not the European Digital Innovation Hub, but it was because of the people on the ground, the people that you met every day. And he told you, do you know about this opportunity? So this is the only way how you can, if somebody, I work at the University of Ljubljana. If I come to a very remote city and I say, do you know we have this opportunity? It's like, I know what is good for you. But it's like somebody who is your neighbor, who is your, I don't know, person you meet him in the store, person you meet him at the farmer. So use those networks that are already here and they function very well. This is the way. When we were introduced the DG Info Points, we didn't create new organizations, new institutions. We used the post offices, we used the cultural centers, we used the libraries. So what is already there? Don't start anything new. And then just through these networks, introduce the opportunities available.
That's an incredibly simple but important message, right? Use the local services that people are accessing to inform them about where they can pick up these opportunities. Anyone else have any other responses there? Anything else that you can share with us about how you diffuse the message, you get people to learn about, to understand where these learning opportunities are?
I think that what she said is just simple but winning. So I couldn't agree more.
Right. Okay. I think it's an excellent answer. Yes? Anyone else care to take a... No? Okay. Did we have any other questions? We do. We have one here. Okay. Again, please.
Thank you. I'm Gianmarco Piola, the Montino Foundation. Emilia, you were talking about founding different silos and how it should be. We should look and try to have a more comprehensive, let's say, project financing. And I see another type of silos that between public and private, and especially in the more, let's say, regional or national funding, where there is innovation funding, technological funding. In those occasions, I see that there could be an opportunity where you could give more evidence to the needs of the communities, the territories, the regional needs, or the smaller cities, because we see that a couple of companies are investing in solution 4, but they are then looking for someone that could be interested in testing those solutions. And by the way, it would be a good way to with the same financing, give opportunity to companies and also look for practical implementation solution for the challenges of the territories, especially for the smaller territories like the mountain and rural areas that really try to find the project financing and opportunities to bring innovation in their territories. And I think that this could be another linkage that could be done between public and private during the policy making phase when you invest in technology and innovation for companies.
Thank you. So I put a very important question here about innovative ways, really, to finance what could be digital innovation programs, but looking beyond perhaps the more traditional approaches. Emilija, I think this one was quite directed to you.
It's an excellent question, and thank you so much for raising this up. So public-private partnerships in my country, in many of our countries in the European Union, are treated like a drag. And they're not. Whenever you see private, it's corruption there. It doesn't have to be any corruption. I think it's very natural. If we wanted to use, for example, the public services that are developed by the taxpayers' money, by the way, companies are also paying taxes. So why not use them when we introduced our EID, electronic identification card, I always wanted, and we did that, to use it as an authorization So if it's used by the government, why not used by the bank? Why not used by the insurance company, and so on and so on? Another thing, the adoption rates, because you're using government services maybe once per year, once for 3 months, but you're using your mobile bank every day, you're using your insurance, your texting services very often, not texting, your mobile and insurance services more often, and you get used to, and you learn how to do that. And another thing, if I was a mayor, I have been working only on a national level politics. If I wanted to support my startups, I would become the first buyer of their solutions. What the company needs for the first time, okay, they need funding, but most importantly, they need the first buyer and they need the reference. So what you can do, you can, I don't know, we were speaking about the hackathons, so you already have the challenges that are there. And then you have the companies, and you find which is the best solution, and then the municipality is the first buyer. It means a lot to the company, because then they can say, okay, I have proven to work good within my municipality. It opens my markets to the other regions as well. So really, thanks a lot for raising this up, and I think that it deserves a special conference topic, maybe next time.
Thank you for putting that one on our radar. And yet there's this wider public procurement agenda actually is really coming up the agenda at the European level, something we need to keep an eye on, and in the hope that it doesn't become too complex in how it can then be operationalized at the very local level. Thank you very much.